A lot of people ranging from your average player to content creators strongly advise people not to unlock Bennett's C6 constellation. Now, despite many people in the community advising against unlocking this quote unquote cursed constellation, is it really as bad as people make it seem to be? Let's dive in. So, firstly, what exactly is Bennett's C6? Well, as for the description, it says sword, claymore, or polearm wielding characters inside Fantastic Voyage's radius gain a 15% pyro damage bonus. Normal and charge attacks now do pyro damage. So, what does this mean? Well, his C6 is actually very straightforward. Characters who rely on normal and charge attacks have their weapons infused with pyro, along with a 15% pyro damage bonus, as long as they're in the burst radius for its duration. Now, some characters are indifferent to it, some benefit from the damage bonus or pyro infusion, or both, and there are very few who are actually heavily affected by it. So I'm going to go in depth with these characters right now. So here I have a tier list, so I'm just going to pop it up on the screen right now. You'll be able to see it right here. So there's a list. I found this on Twitter somewhere, and someone made a Twitter post talking about it. If I'm able to find it, I will link the original Twitter post. Otherwise, unluckies, go next. But anyways, here's the tier list. So I actually like the format that this person made the tier list in. So they have C6 benefits these people, benefits them, but immune to the infusion, immune to infusion and indifferent to it, neutral, and like this could affect them on their normal attacks, but like why would you use their normal attacks anyways? C6 if it's for niche builds, and C6 basically destroys them. So let's actually start from the top of the list because I want to go over the people who really benefit from this build the most. So we have people like Bennett, Toma, Zhangling, Hu Tao, Diluc, and I'll even include the second people in the tier list despite the immunity to the Pyro Infusion. Yanfei, Klee, Amber, and Yoimiya. So, and let's just start with the first five because this includes both the power damage bonus and the infusion, which is a very important aspect of this constellation, is the fact that these people get their weapons infused with pyro. So obviously, if you are someone who mains Diluc for DPS or has a Hu Tao DPS unit, this infusion would do wonders, truthfully. And this is speaking as someone who had an older account that had C6 Bennett with Diluc as like my main DPS. This hit really hard. And I honestly loved it a lot because for me personally, even though yes, Diluc has like regular normal attacks, I preferred when he was able to consistently do pyro damage, especially because I played him alongside Shincho, which if you know, Shincho is obviously one of the best Hydro Sub DPS characters in the entire game, and especially because of his ultimate, because it consistently does Hydro application, and it lets your pyro characters constantly do Vaporize, as well as other reactions if you like other reactions as well. But it's a really good sub DPS unit, and so when using Diluc, it really made the Vaporize easier, and it actually was able to dish out a lot more damage than doing like the regular combo with like every other auto attack not having an infusion. So I really like that about the C6 infusion on Diluc. Hu Tao, I've never played Hu Tao, so I wouldn't know, but I could imagine this could be really good for her, honestly. Especially with the fact that not just the damage bonus, but the infusion would also make the Vaporize a lot better. I just feel like a lot of this, especially with the infusion, just in general, would make reactions way easier to perform, and you would do it at a more consistent rate than how you normally have to do it with like doing it in between weaving auto attacks and everything. You could literally just go one hit and just smash left click over and over again, and you just get vaporized reactions over and over again. And it'd be just really straightforward. And as you know, Bennett's uh, burst radius is actually pretty, it's not humongous, but it's pretty big enough to where you can like maneuver around and you'll still somewhat be inside of the radius. And also it lasts for quite a bit. I think it lasts like what, anywhere from like 7 to 10 seconds, I would imagine. So yeah, it's really good overall. So yeah, I like it for these characters at least. And these are some good characters to put with the benefits, as well as even the characters who are immune to the infusion, but like would still benefit from this regardless. For the 15% power damage bonus. Okay, so now this section right here, this is more of the neutral section. These are characters who pretty much do not care at all what you do with Bennett. Doesn't matter if you don't have him C6, doesn't matter if you have him C6. 9 times out of 10, these characters won't really care, mainly just because you're not even really using their normal attacks. Well, the main thing is either obviously up here being that they're immune to the power infusion and it just makes no difference, or it's neutral for them and they can be affected by the infusion because of their normal attacks, but like, why would you even use their normal attacks in the first place? So like, for example, Ito. Obviously, there's some people who kind of use his normal attacks, but for the most part, you're not often going to use Ito for like a really long duration of your in-game fighting time. Usually you want to like swap him in when he has his burst, open his burst, do a ton of damage, and then once it's over, then go through all your other units, and then hopefully in time when you go back to Ito, he has all the energy ready for his burst again. And you usually want to use Ito for those scenarios. You don't usually want to use him for like regular auto attacks or anything like that. So in this case, even if you had Bennett C6 with Ito, it actually wouldn't really detriment him a lot because regardless, you're not even using him for regular normal attacks anyways. So it's kind of just like, why do you even care? Same for someone like Kazuha. For Kazuha, it wouldn't matter unless you were like a Giga Whale and you had him like high constellation type thing. Then that's when it would probably matter. And then maybe like one more example from here, I would probably say like Mona. Mona's a good example of just like a character who, again, doesn't really care. Like honestly, she doesn't care. She all of her damage is Hydro. Even with the infusion, you're not going to be able to override her damage because like it's all just Hydro by nature. So the infusion doesn't matter. The power damage bonus doesn't really matter. C6 literally doesn't affect people like Mona, who either like have charge attacks that are already infused with like a certain element, or are like bow characters. These characters just really, they don't care, or like they care if you use them for normal attacks, but like why are you using your normal attack anyway, right? Right. Okay, now onto the bottom two sections. So we'll go over this section here where C6 could screw these people if you use like physical damage builds. So these are just examples of some characters who, if you use a physical damage build, it's obviously good. It's just that it's not like the build that most people go with these characters, mainly just because, especially regarding the slots and how many DPS characters there are in this game, you're not usually doing DPS with these characters, so to say. It's just that if you do have a physical damage build for these characters, then props to you. I love you because I actually like seeing physical damage builds on these characters. But back to the point, yeah, this would only matter making Bennett C6, and if you're using him on teams with these characters, if you just happen to like do niche builds for physical damage bonus with these characters. Otherwise, again, does not matter. They do not care. They are just minding their business doing whatever. And now onto the section everybody's been waiting for. The characters who actually do get hurt really bad by this. So that's Jinyan, Razor, Chungyun, Eula, Ayaka, and Kaching. So if you use any of these characters and you happen to pair them with a Bennett, do not give your Bennett C6. Just don't do it. It's not worth it in my opinion. And I personally own Ayaka on my other account. So I never think about getting Bennett C6. Well, firstly, because I don't even have the constellations to unlock him C6, but even if I did, I wouldn't unlock him C6 because I use Ayaka a lot. Now, I don't use Ayaka with Bennett, but if you do use Bennett with Ayaka, then just be careful because this infusion can really mess her up. And same with like Eula, same with Chungyun, same with like all these characters, especially like Eula and Chungyun, because Chungyun has like a thing with his E where he like infuses his sword with cryo, and if you make the rest of his normal attacks like pyro, it's going to be really confusing to try and navigate how to properly do damage with this character. And then Eula, obviously, she's literally just like the powerhouse physical damage DPS character, so you don't want to mess with anything related to that at all. And then obviously for the rest of these characters, I mean, they just benefit the most from physical damage builds usually, especially like Razor, Kaching, Shinyan. They really excel when they have like either high constellations or like really, really good invested physical damage builds. So yeah, you wouldn't want a Bennett C6 to be on these teams. All right, and that's my in-depth analysis and explanation about C6 Bennett. Hopefully this gives you a bit of a better insight on just how much C6 Bennett affects certain characters, and I hope it gives you a new perspective on the constellation. I know a lot of people are really quick to judge upgrading it, but I would just say, it's not a horrible thing to do. If you use characters like Hu Tao, like Diluc as like your main TPS, and you're not really a fan of characters who like heavily rely on normal and charge auto attacks and like they're not pyro, then it's not a really bad thing to give him C6. And most of the time it won't even matter for like the vast majority of characters anyways. It would only be detrimental for obviously like these very select few characters here out of like the 30 something characters that we have in this game. So it only affects a very small percentage, but obviously if you use a small percentage of characters, then of course be careful and don't level it up. But otherwise, yeah, it really doesn't matter. If you want to be troll or whatever, want to troll your friends and be like, I'm going to unlock Bennett C6, go for it. Because literally most of these characters don't care. They don't care, to be honest. All right, and that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, bye-bye.